It is Saturday, the 7th of the 2nd, 2026. The time is 20 minutes past 8, and that means, as always, one thing, that there are a multitude of F1-centric threads on the docket at which we need to pull. We'll talk about rat holes in the rear of these 2026 cars. So too, we'll talk about Aston Martin. Adrian Newey has built himself a rocket ship, some say, for the avoidance of doubt. All F1 journeys are created equal, but some are created more equal than others. This is Adam Cooper saying, don't be deceived by them turning up late. This is the Adrian Newey modus operandi that is built into that car. Some very serious material durable competitive advantage. So too, we'll talk about Damon chiming in on Scuderia Ferrari. So too has Gary Anderson saying that they're not deceiving anyone with that last of the late breakers lap from Lewis Hamilton on the final day of testing. We'll talk about Carlos Sainz. So too, we'll talk about Adrian Newey, and we'll talk about some Cadillac F1 PR settings. Do you know what I mean? Less than 24 hours away are we from a cheeky Cadillac F1 reveal. So that Brown's chimed in as well, thinking that Mercedes, and therefore King George Russell of King's Lynn, Norfolk, is the favourite for the 2026 Championship of the Drivers' Variety. F-Boy, Miami, you're a legend. I appreciate each and every single one of you to the moon and back. We are going long today, Miami, as much as the old boy Cameron CC has sufficient mental stamina to endure for it. Let me show you this in the first instance. For context, you guys know that I'm not the biggest fan of Jenson Button. Everyone that I know personally that's rubbed shoulders with him outside of a cheeky book signing when he's been giving money, people that have worked with him previously at BAR and Williams, each say to a man and woman that dude is a douchebag. Don't buy into the Jenson Button hype. Yet on TV, he looks like the guy that you would love to go for a drink with. A good guy. Do you know what I mean? Salt of the earth type. But when you rub shoulders up against him, come into close contact with JB, one-time champion, 2009, fortuitous circumstances, Braun double diffuser. Every man on their dog says he's not a very nice guy, but he's not long been hired as Aston Martin ambassador, right? And in line with friend of the channel's thinking, Peter D wins or all F1 journos, blah, blah, blah. Jenson Button will be there looking to pick up the crumbs of Adrian Newey, go where he doesn't have time nor wants to go, deal with the F1 press and media. That'll be JB's job. Adrian Newey only wants to develop cars, build himself a rocket ship. He hasn't got time for all this nonsense. Give that to JB, therefore. Now, JB's done this bloody thing. I'll show you and we'll react to it in kind. You get where I'm going with this. Roll the clip.
You thought he was going to hit me, didn't you? Watch our season launch on TikTok.
Oh, how exciting is that, Jenson Button? He's worth his weight in ambassador gold, isn't he? Oh, you thought he was going to hit me. Watch our launch on TikTok. He has all the charisma of my big toe, that chap. I cannot believe it. Listen, give me the ambassadorial role and I could present with more enthusiasm than that. Am I being harsh, chat? What are we doing here, Jenson Button? This is nonsense. Let's watch it again and maybe I'll reevaluate my harsh characterization.
You thought he was going to hit me, didn't you? Watch our season launch on TikTok.
Oh, I can't wait. No cringe at all. How was he? No cringe at all. What did Jenson ever do? Well, a couple of people that I used to work with went up to Jenson and said hello, and he blanked them completely as if he was a mega star. Do you know what I mean? Lacks for humility. I've spoken to people that have worked with him for years upon years, and as soon as he leaves the team, he goes on as if he doesn't know them. I think that dude lacks humility and charisma, has himself up there as a Sky Sports commentator, and adds all of zero value. That's what Jenson Button has not done. I don't appreciate. He, for me, is emblematic of everything that's wrong with F1. Nominal value only. You saw me bring up the clip where he was like agreeing with Crofty. It just adds nothing. Flip's sake, I'm paying 90 quid a month for this numpty to come on TV and tell me nothing and be a douche. But at least, I mean, if you whatever you want to say about Nico Rosberg not being a nice guy and being a bit of a mercurial character, at the very least, that chap shoots straight and provides us with some insight. If you're on the podcast and you're telling me and us things that we already know, then what's the point? Do you know what I mean? absorb that one FTE into some efficiencies, surely. What are we doing? Yeah, can't wait for that, Jensen. You thought you were going to hit me. No, watch out, look. No, mate, I won't. I tell you in stark contrast who is doing PR good, irrespective of their performance on track in a couple of weeks. Cadillac, absolute gangster level PR at each and every single juncture. Here's their latest outing. Roll the clip.
We do not intend to stay behind, and we shall make up and move ahead.
That's how you do a promo, Aston Martin. Take notes. I didn't even care about Cadillac before because I think they're going to be underperformers, but now I do, watching that, evoking very famous JFK words, for Pete's sake. Inject that into my veins. We are T-minus 24 hours away from a Cadillac launch. They will be doing it during the course of the Super Bowl ad break, the fabled, notoriously expensive Super Bowl ad break. And for that, I think they deserve a big shout out, a massive commendation. Bravo, Cadillac. That's the way to do it. Am I in love necessarily with some of the bloody Checo Perez, Valtteri Bottas dialogues about mullets and all this other nonsense? Probably not. That's not for me. Do you know what I mean? That's not my cup of tea necessarily, but that I have to watch it again. It's not like this will be the 10th or 11th or 12th or 30th time that I'm watching it, for Pete's sake. Get played. I want to watch it again.
We do not intend to stay behind, and we shall make up and move ahead.
I don't hate it. I don't hate it. It gets me amped. Surely, if Liam Parker is saying that F1 is content, then this is what we want to see. This is a sort of promo and VT. Put some money behind it and some ingenuity, some creativity in this Netflix Drive to Survive era in 2026. Don't do the boring thing. Do you know what I mean? Do you remember Canal Plus's VTs last year where they had Max Verstappen in the car like Terminator? And then you'll recall the poster that I want to say Sky Italia put up with Max Verstappen and the bloody Dead or Alive posters of Oscar Piastri. That's the sort of innovative stuff, that the genius level marketing that I think we deserve as F1 fans, if indeed, Liam Parker, we see F1 as content. And not to mention that Cadillac, this is how they're going to reveal their car. They've got, I want to say they've got a station in Times Square around which civilians are walking with a countdown on there. Check this out. Is this a David Blaine shirt? That's how you do it properly, for Pete's sake. That's how you do it properly. Bravo, Cadillac F1. You know what I mean? Try to put some respect on their names. We are not long. Cadillac F1 are coming. And listen, I don't hate it. They've got a fan because they're doing things the right way. I know they've hired a very senior PR guy to get his or her arms around all of this sort of stuff. But surely, as at 2026 February of, F1 fans deserve this sort of stuff. Every time I open my eyes and watch a sporting endeavour not named Formula 1, NBA, MLB, whether it's bloody WWE, the English Premier League, each and every single time, the VTs and the promos, the sports debate are up here. They're God tier, market leading. You understand where your money's going. But for the most part, F1 mention no names. Williams, as far as their VTs, McLaren, Mercedes, bog standard, C- at best. Cadillac F1, though, we're doing things properly and I don't hate it. Oh, and by the way, here's Bottas. Like proper North American stuff. Do you know what I mean? United States. I mean, just get the flag and just wave it. Do you know what I mean? Patriot settings. I don't hate it. Let's go, Cadillac F1. Let me show you this, though, because a lot of people are talking about this mouse trap or mouse hole. Some say that people are looking to do something techie here, that you've got this hole. Is it within or without the rules? Are they operating like Mercedes on the fringe as far as compression ratios? Well, there's a couple of different articles I was reading and they say something like this. Let me show you this in the first instance. You can see both of them. Here's the pictorial. Why have they got a hole in the bloody diffuser? What for? Well, this person writes, and again, courtesy of the guys and girls over at the race, I want to say it was either Noble or Gary Anderson. The lead illustration shows the opening is on the Mercedes. It's believed to allow airflow to be pulled through into the diffuser expansion area, which is Similar to the effect with the mouse holes that we've seen before, but why would you want to reduce the performance of the diffuser with such a big opening? As is always the case with these cars, conceptually it's not quite as simple as that. Is it legal? We often talk about the grey areas, but the grey is simply a lighter shade of black, and to get that you mix with white. What a joker. As with many areas of discovery, it's fringe. It's all to do with this the old in-wash and out-wash, trying to make these cars more aerodynamically efficient. It won't be the first time. You remember back in the day on the Red Bull that they had this there. I mean, it's a sexy piece of machinery, but is it within the rules? And if we're talking about rules and regulations, of course, you've got to have yourself a cheeky conversation about compression ratios, which we've been nobbling to DEATH at this juncture over the next couple of days. Lest we forget, less than 40 days now before we get ourselves a race proper. They're going to have to make some decisions. March the 1st, homologation settings, after which you cannot change these engines unless mandated by the ADUO. Additional development and upgrade opportunities. The PUAC are going to get involved. The Power Unit Association Commission, Advisory Committee. There we go. Everybody's going to get, all and sundry are going to have to get involved because they are worried that Mercedes are going to run down the road. As aforementioned, Juan Pablo Montoya says he thinks that Mercedes has versus the performance that you saw from them at the private test, that they're hiding another 4 to 5 seconds. Oh, the humanity. Let me tell you about this. There's been a lot of chat since we're talking about cars. There's been a lot of chat about Aston Martin. Adam Cooper says something to this effect, that don't look on them coming late to the Barcelona test as a slight on them. That what you need to think about is Adrian Newey has spent his time wisely, that he's figured, we talked about design synchronicity already, that he's injected more of his time into the suspension and the chassis, that he's built himself inbuilt within that AMR 2.6 some durable competitive advantage over which none of the other teams can come, not within the next 12 months at least. So therefore, if Honda bring them a power unit worthy of a championship challenge, then you bet your bottom dollar that Aston Martin will be right there. Here's what Adam Cooper says. I'm going to read some of this out to you because it's a half decent article, this. So Adam Cooper, go on then. He says that it's the perfect solution to the new rules, what Adrian Newey's designed. It's not just aerodynamics, but all areas. The mechanical package, the suspension components have a huge impact on airflow. And Newey's always considered and tailored that to suit his overall targets. He also told the gearbox guys to start afresh as he wanted. This is techie. He also told the gearbox guys to start afresh, just like he did with Red Bull and Rob Marshall when he was trying to put the cars in ambitious places that led to less reliability but more performance. As far as the gearbox, he told the gearbox guys to start afresh as he wanted something more compact and better packaged on which to build the rear suspension. He did not get a model of the AMR 26 into Aston's new on-site wind tunnel until April, when the FIA rules allowed a January 2nd start for all teams. But was it worth the wait? Why was the car late? Continues Adam Cooper. A perfect storm of circumstances. The first car from Team Silverstone since 2009, Force India, that does not feature a Mercedes engine nor a gearbox designed by someone else. Therefore, having previously used customer gearboxes, it also had to design and build its own bespoke unit for the first time in 2 decades. Consider too that New was not allowed to start work at Aston Martin until March the 1st, 2025 under the terms of his Red Bull gardening leave. Oh, the humanity. There's a much bigger picture at play. Therefore, he says all of that, if not just to say this, that Adrian Newey might have built himself a rocket ship, as evidence when the AMR 26 turned the wheel at last on the Thursday, the final Thursday of private testing. The car left rivals stunned by the aero and mechanical details, especially around the suspension. The overall verdict was that Newey had indeed pushed the technological boat out. Oh, the humanity. Lawrence Stroll, yeah? And Lance. Oh, the humanity. I wouldn't bet against him. Here's what I think, though. I think, given what Koji Watanabe said, head of HRC, the Honda Power Unit program, He's told us at every single juncture that he's concerned, that it's been difficult, that they've struggled with their timelines, that they're struggling with the weight of the power unit, and they're struggling with its power and efficiency. Honda, I mean, it depends on which side Honda wake up out of bed. Do you know what I mean? It depends. If it's 2015, all of a sudden you're going to get Alonso saying Gibido engine, so underpowered was it then, led to Alonso leaving McLaren because it was so rubbish. Or you could get the Honda of 2021-22 settings, Red Bull, God tier each and every single time. It depends. I'm telling you, they can be mercurial, genius minds over there at Honda, but they can and have been mercurial. Oh, and by the way, I need to tell you about Carlos Sainz Jr. here, because this Lammers chap, a former driver, has said a couple of different things. Again, remember, we're going to a brand new rule and reg spec in 2026. It's going to be techie. George Russell has said that it's going to be a managerial championships, that the techiest of techie drivers will be able to extract pace and advantage, therefore, out of the brand new rules and regs. The recharge of the battery. Can you charge it on revving the engine high into corners? Can you? Will you be able to leverage some of these trickier than tricky things? Is it dark art settings? Because if it is, then Lammers contends that the likes of Carlos Sainz Jr. and Max Verstappen and Fernando Alonso, each of whom have this god tier race IQ, will come to the top, will rise to the top of the F1 peddler podium like cream does always. Here's what he says. He says there are some god tier ones like Max Verstappen, widely regarded as somebody who will benefit the most, per Helmut Marko's previous assertion that the Dutchman's prowess in energy management as a key trait to have the due 50-50% split in hybrid, to take advantage, of course, from the 50-50% split. Lammers also shares that Carlos Sainz is another gangster F1 peddler who is intellectually gifted as the four-time four-time champion, four soon to be five, some say, Maximilian Verstappen. Let me say about Carlos Sainz. Often overlooked. If you haven't already, there is a Nude Project podcast during which Carlos Sainz talks about everything. He talks about the number of seats available at any one time in F1. People say that there's 20. There are 20 seats in F1. Well, not if you're a driver looking to get into the sport. Do you know what I mean? The upper echelon motorsport formula in the world. At any one time, there might be up to 4 seats available. Do you know what I mean? 4, maybe 5 if you're lucky. That's the problem. He talks about the luck needed to get into F1, that it's not just about financial resource. You need to get on a junior program. You don't just need to be good. You need to be good at the right time. Hearing this rich tapestry of F1 knowledge come out of Carlos Sainz's mouth, being espoused by the man from Madrid, just lets me know who this dude is. So too, you will have seen the discerning-eyed amongst you. Carlos Sainz feeding back to the Scuderia Ferrari engineers. They miss him echa de menos, some Carlos Sainz Jr., because he gives them that educated, almost the nuanced feedback of the technical variety that Ferrari so desperately need and cannot and will not get from modern day journalism, nor Sir Lewis Hamilton. They just don't have that in their locker. The ability to translate complex technical issues as far as driver feedback into useful information for both engineers and aero. This is who we're talking about in Carlos Sainz Jr. And that's the type of dude that's going to excel if this is an adoption race. Do you know what I mean? These are brand new rules and regs for everybody, all of sundry up and down the grid, the drivers, engineers, team principals, and the quickest ones, the most adaptable to change, will be the ones that expedite for their learning curve and potentially take a jump on the rest as far as energy management, being efficient with it, active aero, what buttons to press when. Lest we forget, Toto's already told us that there will be overtaking in some very non-conventional places on track. It won't just be into the braking zone. It's going to be all over the shop. Can you imagine overtakes on the apex of Maggots and Beckett's? Oh, the humanity. But it will depend on how efficient these drivers are being with their energy deployment and recharge. And the likes of Max Verstappen, Fernando Alonso, and so too Carlos Sainz will be at the forefront of that right, expediting for the learning curve. Lest we forget that it's not the strongest of the species that survives, some say. It is the most adaptable to change. Enter stage right on Carlos Sainz Jr., the man from Madrid. Oh, and by the way, I need to tell you guys about this. Zach Brown has said that he agrees with the bookmakers who have George Russell as a 31% favourite. He reckons that if you were I'm going to quote him now. He says, if you went, quote, to Vegas today, I think Mercedes looks like the favourite sitting here right now, but there isn't a long way to go. Williams didn't make it, or there is a long way to go, excuse me. Williams didn't make it out in Barcelona. Aston Martin got only there to the very end, so you have no idea where Williams stands. Well, you do kind of, Zach Brown. Let's not be naive. You know what I mean? I'm not going to lie and say that Williams are in for winning the championship. Yeah, they have the Mercedes engine, but bloody Nora. Hearing from people at the coalface over at the Williams factory, they've been working very late nights with a view to get a product on the grid as of Australia. I think it's going to be touch and go. They'll be there, but maybe they'll be their sons, a cheeky spare monocoque, just like they were when bloody Logan Sargent yeeted it into the barrier all those cycles ago. Oh, and by the way, need to have a conversation, a very serious chat about Ferrari, guys and girls. Because whilst Lewis Hamilton put the fastest lap of the session in a couple of weeks ago, some are saying that they flattered to deceive. It is Ferrari, isn't it? I mean, I don't want to go scorched earth on them and be disparaging, because that feels like I'm bullying them. I said everything that I need to say about Ferrari and the extent to which they are experts in failure. Do you know what I mean? Rubbish each and every single time. Robert, you're a legend. I appreciate you, mate, for becoming the latest member. Get over to the community tab and join the Discord. I'll post a link there as soon as we finish here. Look, let me tell you about who Ferrari are. 2008 was the last time that they won any silverware of the constructors variety. 07 was Kimi Räikkönen the drivers championship. Feels like 1,000 gazillion years ago now. No one remembers these things. Do you know what I mean? F1 is a sport where what have you done for me lately is all that bloody counts. So what have they done for me lately? Nothing. They enticed Lewis Hamilton over there under false pretense. Yeah, we'll have our rocket ship. Do you know what I mean? We'll build on our success in 2024, in 2025. And what did they do? Absolutely nothing. They built him a car that he couldn't control. It was like a bucking bronco. He had zero confidence driving through medium and high speed turns, did Lewis. He couldn't even get on the brakes and leverage him being carry flat as last of the late breakers to any sort of advantage. It was bad over there. And if that was bad, this was worse. The communication made them look like they were a bloody, do you know what I mean? Like they had nothing. Zero professionalism, and that would have burned the likes of John Elkann and the bloody C-suite exec leather bods, because it just doesn't look or feel like a professional outfit. They don't look like they know. They don't sound like that. They haven't sounded like they know what they're doing for the longest time. Do you remember Charles Leclerc? Pits, yes, box. No, stay out. Do you remember Charles reacting to that? Reacting to him yeeting it into the... I am stupid. No. We are checking. How many times have you heard that over the last 2 or 3 or 4 years? Almost in perpetuity. They are memeable for their incompetence ad nauseum, and it's ridiculous here. Enzo Ferrari returning them the great. I don't think the Tifosi deserve this. I mean, Lewis deserves this, and Charles Leclerc definitely doesn't deserve this, given the driver who he is. So what are we going to do, Ferrari? Surely we're going to turn this around. Wow, Damon Hill and Johnny Herbert and Gary Anderson and Mark Hughes, think they might have been Evo. Sometimes one must get a tad feisty. One thinks that Scuderia Ferrari might be flattering to deceive here. Do you know what I mean? Trying to do like they did to Sir Lewis Hamilton and misrepresent the truth. You know what I mean? Misdirect us away from the almost inevitable failure at this juncture by doing what? By short fueling or putting an ounce of fuel in Lewis Hamilton's car on the final day of testing and allowing him to go and set the quickest lap. Of course, that makes sense. And this is the problem with testing, right? Ultimately, it's meant to be due diligence. The team and driver that wins testing, if past his prologue, is the one that sets the most laps, not the quickest time. But again, There's something to be said for sponsorship and logos, getting some camera time if it's HB, and they're paying gazillions and gazillions of pounds and dollars and euros every single year to be a title sponsor. I understand it, but Damon Hill's spoken to that. Damon Hill's spoken to it, and Gary Anderson's spoken to it, and Mark Hughes has also spoken to it, each from different angles, saying similar but different things. That it feels like an exercise in futility. And again, this is conjecture and speculation, of course. My crystal ball is as murky as the next person's, murkier, some say. But if past this prologue, and this is Ferrari, when they start to flatter to deceive and do these late last-minute glory runs, so you can see Lewis Hamilton and the yellow badge with the black prancing Corsa top topping the timing sheets, it's like, okay, so this Houston, we may have ourselves a Ferrari, for a prancing horse shaped problem. Here's what Damo said on the Stay on Track, formerly the Stay on Track podcast, now known as the Undercut. Familiar name that for you guys who are long termers. Damon suggested that Ferrari are prone per F1 oversteer. Again, legends of the piece. Damon Hill suggested that Ferrari are prone to so-called glory runs during testing. Oh, the humanity. What are we doing here? The pressure on the team is such that they want to appear fast, even if their rivals aren't pushing as hard. Do you hear this from Damon? I think he's nailed it, chat. It's all false seeming. Shakespearean levels. Like, what are they doing? They just want to look like they're... and this is what makes the past 12, 24 months so tragic. All they want to do is look as if they know what they're doing. There is no substance in it. It is all nominal value. And this is why Scuderia Ferrari represent in Formula One something of a Shakespearean tragedy. There is no fans, no team that are better supported. You've heard Rob Medley say that if you win at Scuderia Ferrari, you are a patron saint. They will DIE for their bloody team. And here's Scuderia Ferrari just doing the Shakespearean levels of false seeming. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. No, we won't build ourselves a fast car. No. We won't hire Adrian Newey. Yeah, we'll sack off Carlos Sainz and hire in Sir Lewis Hamilton, who's only got a couple of years left. Whereas Carlos Sainz is the one who could actually help us build a car. Yeah, no. All false seeming, and I think it's incredible. Damon's nailed it. The pressure on a team is such that they want to appear being the pertinent word here, to be fast, even if their rivals aren't pushing us hard. This is the problem, yeah. If Ferrari were interested in substantive, they would bin off all these glory hot laps that look good aesthetically, but do nothing to further their program. Surely you're meant to be developing a car here, and in order to do that, what's the cheeky hot lap going to do on in circumstance climactic and program that aren't representative of what qualifying will be in Australia? It makes no sense. This article continues courtesy of F1 Oversteer. This reminds Hill of two of his former teams, Arrows and Jordan, both of whom were in the midfield. While sponsors may welcome the attention, it's a move that can backfire. Ferrari set the second fastest time of F1 testing last year through Hamilton, then locked out the fourth row for the season opener in Australia. If past this prologue, chat, they did exactly the bloody same thing last year. They wanted to look fast. F1 isn't about looking fast. It's about being fast. And somebody needs to tell the likes of Alcan and bloody Frederick Vasseur, lest Frederick Vasseur want to lose his job after race 5 or 6. I think we have ourselves a humongous Ferrari problem here. I think it's a good chance that this might be the purge. That this time next year we'll be talking about a Lewis, Charles and Frederick Vasseur-less Ferrari. I think they will all go for different reasons. Charles will be looking for pastures anew, a quick car, a team that has a semblance of competence to it. Mention no names, Mercedes, Aston Martin, or even Red Bull. Lewis will retire. He won't even. I mean, there's still rumour that he might sack it off before the season even starts. If he gets to Bahrain and doesn't like what he sees, then why not go and spend the year with Kim Kardashian or whoever? I mean, ill-advised, some say. But if you want to go and, do you know what I mean? Build a lot, like... I can't hate it, chat. Anything and anyone but for this Scuderia Ferrari car, especially if it's bloody slow again. And Frederick Vasseur, well, he won't have a say in his decision because John Alcan will wield the sword of Damocles without hesitation. Oh, and by the way, It's not just Damon Hill saying this. Listen, sometimes it's one person and it's like, do you know what I mean? Low hanging fruit. It's easy to hook onto somebody's opinion because opinions are like a-holes. Everybody has one, right? But it's not just Damon Hill saying this, referring to his time at Jordan and the glory runs. It's Gary Anderson. Gary Anderson is a god tier tech F1 mind, and he said something like this. F1 technical expert Gary Anderson fears that Ferrari have been too safe with their chassis. Okay, so let me defend Ferrari in the first instance, because we know already this is a B-spec iteration of a car, that whatever they bring to Bahrain will look infinitely different to whatever they brought to Barcelona. So maybe I should reserve judgment, do you know what I mean? I shouldn't be so scorched earth on them until I see how underperforming or otherwise their A-spec is when they bring that to Bahrain. But Gary says of the car that they brought to Barcelona that they may have been too safe with the chassis. None of the sexy things that you saw with the Adrian Newey car. None of the god tier compression ratios over at Mercedes. 18-1, you're having a laugh. But Ferrari will be lucky if they're 16-1 even. They don't no. Ferrari have never been that team, have they? Not for about 20 years. On the power unit side, Ferrari too, continues this article, are concerned about energy management, which will be critical this year after studying their findings and their data in Barcelona. Too safe, says Gary Anderson, with their chassis. Nothing sexy as far as their suspension. The aero just looks bog standard as well. Granted, Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton looked happy, didn't they? They spoke about how the handling dynamic is really, really good. But again, this would be the first time that they flatter to deceive. I'm really worried. I'm really worried for them. And then Mark Hughes, let me tell you this as your Exhibit C. Mark Hughes says of the car that all of the problems that Lewis Hamilton talked about last year, most notable of which were the positioning of the seat. Remember, to leverage Lewis Hamilton's god tier internal gyroscope, the seat needs to be back there. Do you know what I mean? Push it back as far as possible so that it knows what the rear is doing and can push it, therefore manipulate the car in and on around the limits of adhesion without yeeting it into the barrier to get the best out of Lewis. He told Mercedes in his final years there, move the seat back. Where do you think Ferrari have put the seat then? right up top. Yeah. Copy Scuderia Ferrari, go for it, mate. Mark Hughes is like, what have they done? Gary Anderson says it looks like they've been too safe. There's nothing on there that's sexy. It doesn't look impressive. Damon says that they're flattering to deceive, doing all their glory runs in the dying embers of the final days of testing. Mark Hughes says that they've put the driver's seat in the wrong place for Sir Lewis. Like, what are we? No, Scuderia Ferrari. Now, he is hoping to make a mug of me because F1, a rising Ferrari tide, most definitely floats all F1 boats. I understand it. And that's the oldest truism in F1 history, literally. Them being the only team to have competed in each of F1's 75 years. But I think it's going to be I think it's going to be a problem for Ferrari. If past this prologue. Then he says, I'm a Red Bull Racing and Verstappen fan, but I think Merc will be on top. It's the best, but 100%, mate. That's why George Russell currently 31%, hot favourite to take the Drivers' Championship. However, some are saying of Red Bull that they were surprised by how reliable it looked, bearing in mind that it's a brand new operation, brand new power unit, Red Bull Ford, but then you'll recall that Chris Harry said, well, it's not quite brand new. They've just rolled forward all of the knowledge and expertise that Honda had been giving them to the tune of 3 or 4 championships, 2022, 23, 24. You know what I mean? Just roll that forward because there are lessons to be learned. And potentially that's why the likes of Lando and George and Toto and now Zach Brown are looking at Red Bull thinking, hang on, this is concerning. The Red Bull Ford looked like they might have done something, notwithstanding the fact that they've missed out on the ability to weaponise compression ratios reliably. Kimi is going to iss off George this season. Watch. Can you say Lewis Hamilton and Alonso 07? That's like this feels like. I put out by the way, chat, I put out a community tab and I want you guys to vote on it. Hottest prospect ever between Alonso of 2001, Lewis Hamilton in 07, Max Verstappen in 15 and Senna in 84. Let me know in the chat. I want to continue this conversation because I think it's a fascinating one. A friend pitched it to me the other day. Who was the hottest young prospect? I mean, it's hard to bat against Louis. If you're fighting a world champion in your first season, oh, and by the way, a world champion back-to-back beating Michael Schumacher in his heyday, Max should step up and turn the Ferrari project around. Behave yourself, Blade Runner. I mean, Max is not a bad peddler, Max. But I wouldn't go over to, unless they show him something. If they turn it around and build themselves a rapid car and start leveraging some compression ratios and stuff, then yeah, Max will find himself over there. But before then, no. If the Ferrari PU and others were getting 350 kph on Catalonia, Mercedes has nothing but loads of marketing. Put a pin in it, Mateo. We'll see in a couple of weeks, Mateo. Everybody's saying that they've got an extra anywhere between 15, depending on who you're talking to. This is what Mercedes have in hand, between 15 and 20 brake horsepower. That translates to a lot of speed on the straights. And it's not only that, it's the fact that that compression ratio, Gubbins, 18-1 as versus 16-1 out on track, would enable them to be more efficient with their fuel usage. So therefore, what do you think the weight of their car looks like at the start of the race? Lighter or heavier than a Scuderia Ferrari car? I think they will need less fuel, and that's where it's going to get techie. Jomo, you're a legend. What's going on, Jomo? Drop me a line, Jomo. I responded to your email. Bloody Nora, you cannot write this SH1T. Max could bring people there like Michael did. So go on then, Robert. To Peter Windsor, sum this up infinitely better than I can. That what Michael did in So Michael left Benetton in 1996, eh? It's just a very different time. Contractually, it's just a very different time. So Michael was very adept in being able to get the God tier ones, the Holy Trinity being John Todd, Ross Brawn and Rory Byrne out of their Benetton contracts and getting them over. Do you know what I mean? Brawn in particular and Byrne. He was very adept and savvy in getting them out of their contracts, realising that they're the key personnel responsible for a lot of his success at Benetton, getting them out of their contracts and taking them over to Scuderia Ferrari with him. I don't know. If he could have, Lewis would have. Surely Lewis would have snatched Bono in an instant. But there were such things of gardening leave. There were such things as non-compete clause. The litigation around stealing and about. The contrary. 96, Mike. Let's go, John. I suppose the antithesis to this is, if Michael were around today, then he'd do everything that he needed to do, right? Litigation, whatever. If you identify Adrian Newey as the guy that's most likely to bring you success, then you make sure you get him. He's got to accompany you along to your next venture, and that's probably what Max is doing now. Max is sat there chilling, waiting to see whether Adrian Newey's bought himself a rocket ship and whether Aston Martin, therefore, needs to be his next destination. Heard Ferrari will have issues with centre of balance due to engine, expecting more spins. Yeah, people at Malibu, people keep on saying that. I mean, Lewis had a couple of spins, didn't he? Even though he said that, yeah, the car is twitchy, but it's easier to catch. But he had a load of spins. That aligns very nicely with the seat being in the wrong place, right? To weaponise his very well attuned internal gyroscope so that he can manage the car on and around the limits. John, you're a legend. No, mate, I'm an old FART. Max would have a tough time at Ferrari. Mercedes is better for him because he's got that relationship, hasn't he? Doesn't seem like Ferrari were being receptive to Lewis' attempts. I tell you what, Crow, let's talk about this as we round third. If you were a Ferrari engineer, let's redact the names on this so that people don't get sensitive and sandy for JJs. Imagine you have two drivers, driver X and driver Y. Driver X is getting on in years, probably got a couple of years left in Formula One. Driver Y, you could build a team around because he's young and in his prime. In one season, driver Y, you were struggling in this season. The car wasn't great. It was twitchy and temperamental, a bucking bronco of an F1 car. In this season, your younger driver, driver Y, beats driver X to the tune of 86 points, Driver X, because he's won a few championships in the past, he's trying to tell you how to build a car. If I'm a race engineer, let me put my supposition out there front and center. If I'm a race engineer, I'm not listening to driver X, who's 86 points behind driver Y. I'm going to build a car in driver Y's image. I just am. It just makes no sense. I don't care how much of a fan you are of driver X. If you dine at the restaurant of objectivity, if you shirk being an F1 abbot of unreason, you must build a car in driver Y's image. You have to, because that's front loading. That's maximizing your probability of winning races and championships. Therefore, because driver Y proved it being not 10 points down the road or 20. Yeah, it was driver X's first full season at a very difficult team in a very difficult working culture, counterproductive even, some might say. But driver Y, by dint of the 86-point delta in the driver standing between himself and driver X in the same bloody car, has proven himself, and getting better, by the way. Driver Y, some say quickest point to point on the grid. Driver Y has proven himself well deserving of having a car built around him now. Forget Mansell, get that Ferrari HQ moved to Milton. But they're never going to do it, are they? This is the problem. Did you hear Mansell talking about, I'll end on this as we round third. I read an article that talked about Mansell comparing Williams versus Ferrari. John, no, you're a legend, right? Interesting from Mansell. Mansell said, no, Ferrari are infinitely better team. You remember seeing a Ducati and saying how nice it was to engineers, and the next week he got one delivered to his house. The next week he was testing a Ferrari Testarossa when those came out, and he was advising them that it's a bit twitchy, so you need to dial some more understeer into it. And again, a few weeks down the road, what arrived at Nigel Mansell's house? A Testarossa. Nigel said, bless him, champion 1992 no less. Nigel said, Williams weren't like that. I didn't get any free gifts. There was nothing that I got from Williams. 1993, Nigel, remember? And then shortly thereafter, he goes on to correct himself. Actually, no. I tell a lie. I did get something from Williams. A driver's championship. I forget. Oh, the humanity, Nigel. But again, it speaks to the working, not just the working culture, but Ferrari's raison d'etre there, isn't it? That's why they exist, to kind of service their successful drivers, and it is all gifts. And I don't know, if you're a Ferrari engineer, you want Percival as a WDC, but you want to listen to the 7-time. No, I think you're describing two separate entities, mutually exclusive circumstances there, Daniel. I think you listen to some of what Lewis is saying, but you can't build the car in Lewis's image. You must overweight Charles Leclerc, because he will leave otherwise. He will leave. Menace, what makes no sense, Menace? That's all that we do on this channel, Menace, is make sense. For the avoidance of doubt, we will never ever sacrifice, not now, not ever, truth, value, nor objectivity at the altar of any cognitive dissonance worthy of the moniker. Never. Not now, not ever. So go on then, Menace. I challenge you. Rebuttal me, mate. So you mean to tell me that you build a car in the image of Lewis Hamilton? 41 years old of him. 86 points down the road from Charles. That makes sense, doesn't it, Menace? Don't allow your subjectivity to cloud your judgment, chap. It's really important here. Would I love Lewis Hamilton to go and smash out an 8th and have himself, do you know what I mean, rekindle his former glories, remember who he is? Of course I would, but there's some things that need to happen. And the first of those is for Charles Leclerc not to be in that car. I think Aston Martin followed Cameron's train of thought despite the nepotism. Yeah, Aston Martin sounds better. They need the PU though. Cannabis is the truth. It's what makes sense. But if the engineer hasn't won anything in 20 years, then it's also odd to keep doing the same thing and expecting different results. True. Definition of insanity, some say. As a Juventus fan, I wish John Elkann would just leave Ferrari alone to operate on it like Enzo. Yeah. But I mean, you need a strong TP in there, right? Jean Todt settings to circle the wagons around the race team. That's what you need. Truth, Dustin. You can build a car in Charles' image or Lewis's, but if the strategy team and engineers are inadequate or not good enough, neither one of them will win. Charles will leave anyway. I don't doubt that for a second. No, if you're going to win races and championships, every segment, every millimetre Fiorano and Maranello need to be operating at market leading settings. Otherwise, they'll just lose. He just doesn't have the weapons. He doesn't have the speed anymore. Just pointing out that it didn't work out the way that it did with Michael, and that maybe he thought it would. It's a different time. You can't compare those two circumstances. Are you guys aware of equivalence fallacy? Just we're comparing apples and oranges as far as the circumstances, but I digress. Baggio and Scalacci, both goats. John, you guys have been legends. I appreciate you. Each and every single one of you to the moon and back. Do me a favour, if you like the stream, then like the stream. Subscribe if you're not already. Between now and next time, the prosecution rests. No further questions, Your Honour.